Welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Cage. I'm your host, Jim Graham, and joining me on the line, we have a special guest. He will be fighting on the undercard of UFC 189 on Saturday, July 11th. He is Mr. Louis Smolka. And Louis, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jim. It's good to be here.
Last time we talked to you was all the way back in November, believe it or not, when you fought in Sydney. So how was your New Year and Christmas and all the holidays and all that?
Oh, it was great. I actually went to Disneyland for my first time. That was pretty fun. Got to experience like all the childhood wonder and stuff. That was pretty cool for me. But actually, I don't consider myself too much of a Disneyland person, but I like theme parks. I actually we went to Knott's Berry Farm after. I had like a way better time there with the rides and stuff.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. So glad you got to do that. And so far, obviously, in 2015, how has your year been so far?
It's been good, man. I'm actually gonna be a dad in about December, around Christmas. Actually, is the due date. So yeah, it's been a pretty good year so far.
Well, congratulations with the baby on the way. And, of course, now you get ready for a fight. Obviously, as I said, your last fight was back in November. Did you mind kind of having that long layoff, or did you wish you maybe had a fight a little sooner this year?
I didn't really mind the layoff. I guess I wish I could have fought a little bit better, but I don't know, I just, when things were coming up, I wasn't feeling too well, and, I don't know, I just ended up getting sick right when they wanted to match me, and I didn't really want to, commit myself to fighting when I was sick, and I wasn't really sure, how long it was going to take me to get better, how much time I could put into the camp and stuff, so, yeah, it ended up not really working out, but, I'm glad I have a fight now.
Now, since we last talked, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson has defended his title once again, most recently at UFC 186 against Horiguchi. And I was just wondering, what did you think about that fight? And obviously, he had that record-setting submission there just as the bell rang in round 5. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts as him being the top guy of your division right now.
It was a great performance. He used his wrestling a lot to pressure Horiguchi, I felt like, especially in the earlier rounds, the takedowns and just eventually wearing away at him, winning the points and forcing Horiguchi to have to kind of go into desperation, I don't know, man. Demetrius looks really, really good. He has great footwork, great cardio, paces really well. He's a hard guy to fight, and what he does well is he maps out his combinations and his entries super well, and then he maps out his exit also. He doesn't just attack, he attacks and defends. He has a whole exchange planned out so well.
Now, of course, your fight at UFC 189 will be the first fight for the UFC in terms of their new deal with Reebok being the official clothing provider for the organization. And they just announced the fight kit yesterday. And I was wondering, have you had a chance to see your fight kit? And do you know already what you're going to wear for UFC 189 in a couple of days?
No, I actually haven't seen my fight kit. I went online and I looked at the fighter replica kit or whatever. And, I'm not sure if that's the actual one I'm going to be wearing or what, but yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I would have been happier if I could have picked my color schemes a little bit more and done a little bit more, but I'm not sure how the whole situation's going to be handled and stuff. I don't know. I still haven't actually seen what I'm wearing, so I don't particularly, I don't have an actual opinion on it yet, but honestly, it does seem a little bit I feel like what the UFC is trying to do right now is they're trying to make this move to make us into a real mainstream sport with uniforms and the NFL, NBA, something like that. But it seems they're giving us all these new drug testing regulations and fighter code of conduct things, and they're trying to do all these things to try to make us into a mainstream sport, but it seems honestly, from my end, it feels kind of rushed and kind of just thrown together, just really, really, really rushed, I feel like. And Right. I feel like these issues are probably going to iron themselves out after a while, but I think that as long as the UFC is willing and like open to like change their policies and they're not going to act like these things are like set in stone, as long as they're able to like work with it and like come up to like a really nice final product after like a few, like, cause this feels like a rough draft to me, honestly. Like, the uniforms and like all this stuff feels like a rough draft, and it doesn't seem like a lot of thought was put in. It feels really rushed. So I feel like as long as they're willing to like keep editing it and keep working, and we'll eventually get that, you know, we'll become that mainstream sport. But I don't feel like that time is like right now. I feel like it's just a test run.
Now, regardless of what the actual uniforms look like, are you excited to being able to wear Reebok gear when you fight inside the cage?
Oh yeah, like I'm super stoked because it's a huge first step, you know, to for us to becoming that mainstream sport. Like I was saying, I'm really happy to be on that first fight card. You know, it's going to get me a lot of exposure. It's a lot of exposure for the sport. And I feel like I really have to, you know, go out there and like put on a show. You know, there's going to be a lot of people watching, and it's like, I want to be able to go out there and put on a show. I'm on Fight Pass, so I'm not sure how many people are actually going to watch that, but I'm hoping that if I can do well enough, like they might air my card like on the pay-per-view if there's like a fast finish or whatever, you know?
Now, of course, in your last fight, you were victorious against Richie Vasiluk. We talked about that win, and we talked about the Sweet Chin music and what that. And now that it's kind of been a while since that, are people kind of still talking about that when you see them and interact with people like on social media, or has that kind of died down for you?
It's died down a lot. People still bring it up every now and again when I like see them out, or like, you know, I haven't seen them in a while, or like it's like, you know. Like if like I'm training with someone new, they're like, "Oh, yeah, just gonna do the kick or whatever." But it's still got me a little bit of attention, but it's pretty much died down, you know.
Now we're about 10 days, or actually 9 days until the weigh-ins for UFC 189. And how's your weight looking at right now?
I got about 15 pounds to go. I just got a salad, and I kind of messed up and there's fruit in it, so I'm like, oh man, I guess I'm just gonna eat it though. I'll treat myself. My weight is good.
Now, of course, this will be your fourth fight in the UFC, but this will be the first time you will get to fight in Vegas, and we'll get to like all the other festivities they're having in conjunction with the event. But just fighting in Vegas, what does that mean to you to finally get to fight inside the cage in the fight capital of the world?
It's pretty cool, honestly. It's gonna be pretty intense. I'm honestly trying to not let it like get to me. Like I'm trying to just like not get caught up in the moment too much, or like let it get to me and overwhelm me until afterwards, and then I'll soak everything in and enjoy what just happened. But right now, I'm just trying to like just stay focused, just win this fight. It's just another fight. Just get this W, and then afterwards, I'll just like, oh my god, it all just happened. It's real, you know. Let everything just soak in.
As I mentioned, in conjunction with UFC 189 is their International Fight Week, which also includes the UFC Fan Expo. So are you excited to kind of be a part of that, you know, whole bunch of events that the UFC is having, including obviously your fight?
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. You know, people are flying in from all over the world to come check it out, and like it's really cool to interact with the fans and stuff. I actually went last year because my teammate Russell Doan fought for the Fight Expo last year on the Weidman Machida card, and like it was really cool to like soak it in, and I feel like that's gonna kind of like help me be prepared for this next fight. You know, like it's not gonna like I'm hoping that like the festivities and like all the events and things won't catch me off guard because I'll have seen it already and I kind of know what to expect, you know?
Now, speaking of your teammate Russell Doan, he is fighting the next day in Vegas at the Ultimate Fighter finale as he is taking on Gerard Sanders. What can you kind of tell us about Russell taking on Gerard there for the Ultimate Fighter 21 finale?
Look for a big performance from Russell, you know, that's one of my best friends, and, you know, I have, like, the utmost faith in him, and I feel like he's really gonna go out there and, you know, show the world what he's capable of and do something amazing.
Now, of course, the big events there for UFC 189, the double main event there between Robbie Lawler and Rory McDonald, and of course now Chad Mendes against Conor McGregor. I just wanted to get your thoughts. We'll start first with the welterweight title between Lawler and McDonald.
I'm a Robbie Lawler fan. You know, he fought out in Hawaii a lot. Back in the day when Hawaii MMA was like really huge. You know, it was a big deal to fight out here. He fought out here a lot, and you know, like entertained like maybe like a lot of like Hawaii fans. But you know, I'm rooting for Robbie Lawler. Rory, he's tended to gas, I've seen a lot of times. Like, I mean, his two losses to Robbie and to Condit were literally, like, he lost the fight in the dying minutes of the round, of the last round, you know? Like, that was, that's kind of, I feel that could play a factor in a 5-rounder. I'm not sure if I've seen Rory fight 5 rounds before, but, you know, he seems to do his best when he can kind of have his way with his opponents and they kind of fear him, but there is none of that at Robbie. So I think it's going to be a tough fight, but I think Robbie Lawler is going to pull this one out.
And of course, the now main event as Conor McGregor will take on Chad Mendes, who's stepping in for Jose Aldo. What do you think about that that newly announced matchup there, Luis?
I think Conor is crazy. That guy is insane. But I mean, he believes himself. You know, like he talks like a crazy person, but he believes himself. You know, and that's really, really dangerous. I could see Conor winning this. Honestly, I have no idea. I think Conor could win this because just the short notice for Mendes because of the weight cut. You know. I'm not sure how heavy Chad Mendes walks around at, but to cut as much as he probably has to in 3 weeks, I'm not sure how much it'll affect his performance, but it's going to be a 5-round fight, you know? And McGregor's had a full training camp, and yeah, I feel like McGregor will probably win. I'm going to take McGregor.
Jim Graham talking with Luis Smolka here on Beyond the Cage, and speaking of weight cuts, I saw a article courtesy of the Bloody Elbow talking about the US ADA starting their new drug restriction policies with the UFC, and one of those things may be a possible ban or limited use of using intravenous fluid, and obviously a lot of fighters use the IV while recovering from weight cut, and I was wondering, what do you think about the possible limited use of IVs, and would that affect you in your recovery from weight cut?
I don't particularly care, honestly. Like, I've used IVs before just because they weren't illegal. It's like, well, if you're going to do it, might as well do it, you know? But for me, it's not a necessity. It's not something I need, so I don't particularly care about the ban. I think it will affect a lot of fighters having to move up in weight, though. Guys who dehydrate huge amounts. Guys like Grayson Tebow, George Roop, you know, these huge guys that like fight in these weight, like, and they cut on, like, these huge guys that cut a lot of weight to make their weight, especially guys that cut a lot of muscle. They cut into their muscle a lot. Your muscles are mostly water, and so you're going to need to rehydrate quickly after, and I think it'll affect them a lot, and I think we're going to see a lot more people fighting at their natural weight classes.
Let's get to your fight here at UFC 189 against Neil Seery, veteran of the sport. This will be his 26th MMA fight, 4th in the UFC, and looking at him, obviously he does have some grappling background, so what are you going to have to look out for against him come July 11th?
I'm looking out for his striking, mostly his power punching and his pace. Like the way he sets pace, he punches hard with bad intentions, but doesn't overexert himself. He'll punch like a 3 or 4 punch combo hard, and then he'll rest, reset, but still not necessarily disengage, but he'll stalk you, but he'll be calm while he stalks you, you know? Like, he sets his pace very, very well. I guess it's something that comes with being a veteran. Like, he knows how to fight the 3 rounds, the 15 minutes without overexerting himself too much and leaving himself vulnerable. And, you know, that's something that I really have to watch out for. Like, I watched when he fought Chris Steele, he caught him tired and stuff and started just pressing up. I noticed when he fought Phil Harris, he pressed Phil Harris the whole time, but, like, didn't really get tired, you know. Like, when he would knock him down and stuff, he didn't rush in blindly punching. And so, like, that's something that I'm really, really trying to watch out for and make sure I have dealt with.
Now, looking over his record, he's only been knocked out once in his career, and that was all the way back in 2008, and it specifically says it was due to an injury, so that actually may not even be an actual knockout. Obviously, I haven't seen the footage of tribal warfare back in 2008, but do you think it will be tough to knock him out, or do you think that you'll be able to get the finish no matter who you're going up against?
Oh, I'm always hunting the finish. I'm always trying to pressure a finish. I always want to finish people. He might be tough to knock out, but, I mean, anyone can get put to sleep at any given time, you know, if you can time them right, if you see something in their style that you want to take advantage of. Like, anyone can get knocked out at any given time, so I honestly, I think I can finish Neil Seery. Try my best to.
Obviously, like I said, your first fight in Vegas, you've been there before, but, you know, now that it's time, it's fight week. Is there anything that you'd like to do in Vegas this time around that you haven't been able to do the last couple of times you've been there?
I kind of wanted to ride the New York roller coaster. I haven't gotten to do that yet. Kind of liking the whole theme park thing, and I don't know if that, like, you know, there's that space tower or whatever, that needle, and you can ride it, and there's like a roller coaster that goes on the outside of the building, and you're like up in the air. I don't know if that still exists, but I don't know. It was just something like I kind of heard, like, talked about a few times. I thought that would be really cool if I could figure that out. I don't want to ride roller coasters.
For sure, that's always a lot of fun. He is Mr. Luis Smolka. You can follow him on Twitter at LastSamuraiUFC. As I mentioned, he is fighting Neil Seery on the undercard of UFC 189. You can catch that fight starting on the UFC Fight Pass prelim portion of the card. And Luis, thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it and wish you the best of luck at UFC 189.
Thanks for having me, Jim. It's been a pleasure.
Once again, that was Luis Smolka right here on Beyond the Cage.